Welcome to this episode of the Russell Brown Show. Yes, this is a special Halloween edition of the Russell Brown Show, where I'll be demonstrating how to work with Adobe Photoshop CS4 and your very own Monster Makeup Kit. That's right, in this episode, I'll demonstrate how to start with your normal human victim and then turn them into a monster. And all of the elements you need to make your very own monster are supplied with this tutorial. That's amazing. So as you can see here, I have a series of different images, hair, wig, bolts, and all the necessary elements to make a monster. Now all of these elements, of course, were drawn for me by John McConnell and supplied to you for free in this tutorial. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to click on this image right here, my original portrait. And then I'm going to hold down my Command key on the Macintosh or my Control key on the PC, and I'm going to select all of the other elements that I want to combine together with my subject's portrait. And of course, this image you're looking at right here has an image size of approximately 6 inches by 4 inches at 300 pixels per inch. You need to then resize and crop your image to that size so it will work well with the size of my graphic monster elements. Once again, that's 6 inches tall, 4 inches wide by 300 pixels per inch. Okay, now that we know that, let's move forward. I'm holding down my Command key on the Macintosh or my Control key on the PC, and I'm going to select the other graphic elements that I'd like to apply to my victim's face. All the scars and foreheads and images you see here. Don't forget the hair and the bolts. Now here's a great super user tip and technique. I'm going to go up here to my Tools menu here in Adobe Photoshop CS4 Bridge. And down here to Photoshop and over to Load Files into Photoshop Layers. This is the best. All I do is select this and it will then open all of my selected files into a single layered Photoshop document. It's that easy. As you can see now, all of my images have opened here, including my victim here at the top. But before I get started, let me point something out here on the Macintosh. If I go to the Window menu and down here to Application Frame, you can see that I've turned this on so that it will block out all of the other applications running behind Adobe Photoshop. It's a great way to work. Okay, now you know, back to our story. Now in this case, let's turn off the visibility of my topmost layer, and you can see all of my other parts in the background. And as I said earlier, they're all supplied to you here against transparency, so you can drag and drop them. Let's turn the visibility of my victim back on, drag him down to the base by clicking and holding, and dropping it down here to the base, so it's the bottommost element. Then I'm going to turn off the visibility of some of my other elements here. I'm going to focus just in on one. In this case, it's my skin texture right here, and I'm targeting that. So let's go through the basics of how I would work with these. Targeting this and selecting my Move tool, I can move this into position like this. I'm going to align it up here with the eyes initially like this. You can see clearly it's the wrong size for this particular face. So we're going to adjust it and use the different transformation tools to do that. Let's start off with the simple transformation. Under the Edit menu and down to Free Transform right here. Now with Free Transform, I can of course grab any of the corners or edge points you see here and click on those and start to stretch. I'm going to zoom back out a bit so I can see more of my control points as you see here, because I want to bring these control points up and these control points down. And just by clicking on the top and the bottom, I've now aligned the mouth and the eyes just like this. If I need to bring the sides in at all, I can do this as well. Let's line it up just like that. Looks great. I hit the Enter key. So that's the simplest way to transform any of these elements to make them fit your victim's face. The other one I like to use, of course, under the Edit menu and down here to Transform is Warp. This is a great way to restructure it or to bend it in extreme ways By clicking right here within this grid, I can start to distort and push and warp the image around as you see here. You hit the Enter key, just like that. Now, of course, another way to warp and distort these is here from the Filter menu, and it's Liquify. Liquify lets you push and bend the shapes around more directly with any of the tools you see here to the left. Typically, in projects like this, I use this tool right here in this upper left-hand corner. It's called the Forward Warp tool. I can select that, and I can also select the size of the tool over here in the menu to the right. I can then open up the space of the eye here a bit by clicking here and moving the pixels around, and then clicking OK. It then goes back in, as you can see here. Here's before, and then after. It's opened up the opening within the transparency for that particular layer in case my eyes were slightly larger. Okay, let's bring in our next element. Let's bring in this green neck stitching right here. Turning on this visibility for this layer, be sure and target the layer, use your Move tool, and move this into position. Once again, from the Edit menu, Transform, or Free Transform in this case, I can start to adjust this till it fits the size and shape that I'm looking for. Don't forget to use your arrow keys on your keyboard to nudge this around as you're working on it to get it to look just right. Now I notice something's wrong here. The flesh tone is not exactly matching the flesh tone, in this case a light green. Here's a great super user tip and technique. I'm going to target my base layer as you see here. I'm going to go down here to my base and target this icon right here, Create New Layer. I want to create a new layer that's going to tint and colorize this person's face. With this layer selected, check this out, I'm going up here to my blend mode, and I'm changing my blend mode to color, just like this. So I'm, of course, only going to colorize elements below this layer with the colors I paint into layer number 1 right here. So it's only going to work on color. I'm going to turn off the visibility of these other 2 layers so we can see this happening right here. With this layer targeted, I'm moving over and selecting my paintbrush tool right here. I want a fairly hard-edged brush, not too soft, somewhere right here in the middle. And of course, I want to drop down my brush size. Many times I can do that here from my options bar, but I also use my quick keyboard shortcut on the Macintosh and the PC, which is the open bracket to make it smaller and the closed bracket from your keyboard to make it larger, just like this. Next, I need a nice green value. I'm clicking here on my patch of color here on my tool panel, and then I can go select a nice ghoulish green value. Let's make that a little bit more yellowish, just like that. Now with this color, I can go in here and start to paint over the face. In this case, I'm not going to paint over his eyes. I just want to paint over his face. And my current opacity for this brush is set to 20%. So it lays in a nice base coat of green. I can go back in with a second hit of color if I think I need it. Now you can even go in and model certain areas, so certain areas are more green than others for your particular project, just like this. Okay, looks great. Let's turn back on my skin tone. Oh, that's much better. And let's turn on my neck scars, right like that. And the story continues here, of course. You turn on a layer that you want to work with, target that layer, use your Move tool, move it into position, use your arrow keys, of course, to nudge this in just the right position where you want this to go, just like that. Now, the order in which these are applied to your surface is, of course, important. If you move, for example, this green ear staple scar that I'm lying down now, you can move that below the green texture to the skin, and there's a little bit of show through, but clearly there's a unique difference in having it on top. And of course, not only the layer and the order in which these are applied to your face, but also the opacity. Check this out. I can adjust the opacity down for that particular layer. and get different effects as well. Okay, where were we? Let's go back here to the forehead. Targeting my forehead, using my move tool, and I can drag this into position. With the arrow keys, I can bring this down just like this, bringing it right over the sockets of the eyes so it blends in like that. But the forehead's not tall enough. I'm going to go back to my edit menu again and free transform. And let's transform this up just like this and stretch it up really nice like that. And then reposition this with my arrow keys, even while it's being transformed just like that. And now hit my enter key. Looks great. What else we have here? The monster hair. Let's turn on the hair. We see that the monster hair is not in the correct stacking order. We click on that and bring it all the way to the top, just like this. Once again, with the move tool, we can position this just like this. And of course, edit, free transform. Let's pull the hair down a bit so that it comes down here for some sideburns along the edge, just like that. Squeeze it in a bit here, just like that. Hit my enter key and readjust it with my arrow keys to get it in just the right position I'm looking for. Also keep in mind, if you want to move multiple elements at the same time, simply hold down your shift key, target two of your elements within your set, and use the arrow keys, and you can then group those two together and move them around in that fashion as well. We're starting to look good here, but we're missing our bolts. Finally down here, let's turn on our bolts. Target the bolts, use the move tool, position those like this, and let's use the transformation tools again under the edit, free transform, and let's squeeze those bolts in like this till they fit the width of our neck in this case. Now you of course could put those bolts anywhere you wanted to, but let's put those right there. Looks like our stacking order needs to bring these up a bit, so I'm clicking on them to bring them up one more level, just like that. There we have it. It looks great. All of the different levels are blending together because of the added transparency to each of the levels. We brought in our green skin with that special tip-in technique of targeting a layer and setting its blend mode to color, and we created an effect that looks like this. Everything you need to know to create your own creepy monster. It's been the Russell Brown Show's special Halloween edition. Be sure and look for these files in close proximity to this tutorial you're watching right now on my website, or you may have found this on a CD. Have fun!